What do you do when a student is out of control? I'm talking throwing chairs, throwing things, out of control. What do you do? Hi, I'm Amy Murray from Teaching Exceptional Kinders, and today I'm here to have a frank conversation about what you can do in these types of situations with explosive behaviors. First of all, please, please, please don't blame yourself. These kinds of situations happen to all of us. No one is immune. Kindergarten is this unique and awesome place where sometimes kids have never been in school before and we're their first school experience, which is such an honor, but also a challenge because sometimes kiddos with these big behaviors have never been taught self-regulation skills, haven't had access to early intervention that maybe they needed but didn't receive, and now they show up on our doorstep and they're tossed in with 20 plus other kids and expected to just adapt. And they just don't have the social skills and tools that they need yet to succeed. And so then we see these big behaviors. And it is draining and it is stressful. And it is like, I don't even know what the right word for it is. It's awful. And it can make you feel inadequate and all kinds of terrible things. But please try not to take it personally. So today, I just really would like to chat about what you can do when this is a routine thing happening in your classroom. First of all, and this may not seem obvious to you, you need to make sure that your students, your other students, all your students really know that this is not typical behavior. I was going to say normal, but this is not typical behavior. Okay? Because if kids don't know that this isn't supposed to happen, they're not going to go home and tell mom and dad that this is happening. And nothing is going to change. Okay? I know to ask my own kindergartner when she comes home, hey, how are the kids at school today? Did anybody hurt anybody? Did you have to leave the room for any reason? I know to ask those questions, but typical parents don't know to ask those questions. And when it becomes routine that you're sending the rest of your class out of the room when one student is having a meltdown, then they don't know that that's not typical. So be sure to, after the behavior happens, address it with your kids in a way that is not, it doesn't condemn the student, doesn't make the other student feel inferior, but just saying, boys and girls, we just experienced a big situation in our classroom. And it might have felt a little bit scary, or it might have made you feel a little bit worried, but Mrs. Murray's job is always to keep you safe, and I will always do that, and that's why we leave the room, and that's why we do that. And hopefully we won't have to do this anymore. We need to make sure that when we are at school, we are making our best choices, and we are following directions so that everybody can learn. And making sure that you address it in a way that reassures them that you're there to be their safety net and they are going to be okay because you'll make sure they're okay and that you are there to help them learn. And hopefully that drives home the point, like, we don't want to keep doing this. This is not normal behavior. So that leads me to, okay, the student is going off. What do you do? So hopefully you have a teen teacher or maybe a first grade teacher or pre-K teacher nearby that when this student starts to have these explosive behaviors, you can evacuate the rest of your class to that room so that they can be safe and out of harm's way. I had two. I had one across the hall and one next door, and so hopefully somebody was always there when my class went out to the hall. So we would let the office know that we needed somebody, and the rest of my kids would file out. We had a code word that I would say to my class. One year it was cat, one year it was rainbow. Like, I would just say that word and they knew, stop and go. Like, put down what you're working on. We're not going to our cubby for our little trinkets. We are going. That word is Mrs. Murray's word to get me out of here. Is it terrible that we have to do that? Yes, but that's what we did. So they would go to the hallway. I would wait at the door so I could keep an eye on my student who needed his time or her time to de-escalate. And then I would make sure one of those other teachers took my class in. Sometimes they split them. Sometimes they would all go in one room and do a story, or just join whatever the other room was doing until somebody could come and help my student to de-escalate. And then I would go take over. So that is my best advice on what to do with the other students. I would not ever, when a student is that highly escalated that you need to evacuate your room, you don't want to get into a verbal match with the student. Again, team visuals, right? You don't want to add more talking and more noise to an escalated situation. Like telling him to stop or telling her to stop isn't going to make her stop. It doesn't usually help, and saying, it just doesn't usually help. So the other thing you're going to need to have is a crisis plan of some kind. What happens when this student has an outburst? What is our plan as a school? Not just me. As a school, what is our plan? When this student has an outburst, what are we going to do? Well, first mine was get the other students out, call for help. That's sort of simultaneous. And then it was unique to each student, right? Get the student to the calming space, get the student whatever their calming strategy might be, get them de-escalated, and and there was always a plan. But if you don't have one of those in place and you have an explosive behavior in your classroom, please ask for a crisis plan. A team should help you do that with the counselor, maybe a behavior specialist. The principal at the very minimum should help you have a crisis plan for that student. Even if they do not yet have IEP or special education services, you can have a crisis plan without those things. And the other thing is you need some documentation. You have got to keep very accurate and detailed notes of what's happening right before the student escalated into whatever behavior situation, during the behavior, and what happened right after. This is usually called an FBA, a functional behavior analysis, but you aren't a behavior specialist to do the full FBA, but you can do an informal one where you keep it's called ABC data, where what happened right before, that's the antecedent, what was happening directly before. Like, was it I said, it's time to transition to math, and he didn't want to do it. I don't know. Was it I said, please don't touch her, and she got mad? Like, just exactly what happened before, what the behavior was, and then the consequence is whatever happened after the behavior. So in this case, if you're evacuating the room, the consequence is the room was evacuated and help was called. So those are the types of forms and documentation that you want to keep, because your ultimate goal is to get this student the supports that they need. And you need to, when you're talking with teams and other staff members about your student who is struggling with these behaviors, you need to make sure that your focus is on getting that student and your other students the support they need to have a safe classroom, and yourself to have a safe classroom. Don't be afraid to advocate for yourself. You are a teacher. You are not a martyr. You do not need to be hurt at school, even if it's only a small 5-year-old hitting at you and kicking at you. You don't need to put up with that. That's not a safe environment to work in. And so you do sometimes need to advocate for yourself, because no one else will. One of the other things that you can do is to ask for someone to be in your room. If you know that there are times and situations that are always challenging for the student, like say it's transitioning to math, or it's whatever, recess is always challenging. Getting them a staff member, which might be hard to come by, but buddy to be around during those situations can be helpful as well. And you can find out some of that information by keeping that data on an ABC form, and that'll help you to get to the bottom of it. Hopefully that gives you some practical tips and strategies that you can try when facing explosive behaviors in your classroom. If you are in these situations, please know you are not alone, and it is not a personal thing. It's not you. it's the situation, and hopefully it does get better. If I can support you in any way possible, please drop a comment down below, or here is how to get in touch with me. Best of luck getting your students the support that they need. It should not be this hard. The system is broken. Please, please, please don't let it break you. Thank you for all you do for your kiddos. Right? Until next time, have an exceptional